a non-playoff team from 2019 that is a Super Bowl contender going into 2020.
Go ahead, Speedy.
Ooh, a non-playoff team that is a Super Bowl contender. That is an interesting question. I'm going to say the Indianapolis Colts. I think when you look at the Indianapolis Colts, they have great coaching. When you look at Frank Reich, I think did a great job last year on an extremely difficult schedule that they had last year. They had to play the NFC South, they had to play the AFC West, which again, not a great division, but still a good division with some competitive teams. And again, when you look at the AFC, it's just a lot easier than the NFC. When you look at it, the NFC is a ton of parity. When you look at the NFC South having a lot of good teams, the NFC West having a lot of good teams, it's a lot easier to go through in the AFC than it is in the NFC. Now you have the Patriots are probably going to drop off. You have got a team like the Chiefs and you have a team like the Ravens, but there's really no other standout. And Indianapolis, again, when you look at the coaching, you look at the improvements they made in the draft, now they have a legit running game now with Jonathan Taylor as a good pure runner that they've needed. Their defense is a lot better and a lot more experience. They were playing with a lot of rookies last year, and Darius Leonard out for a long time. So when you look at it from that standpoint, the AFC South always changes every year where they can definitely win that division. And again, I think the coaching is definitely there. Just a matter of if Philip Rivers can get it done in close games. It's always been a notorious problem for him.
It's all about Philip Rivers.
It's a notorious problem for him, but I'm going to say this too. The Chargers are also a problem in close games too. It wasn't just him. So that will make a difference. But again, there's always a time for everybody, and it might just be this chance for the Colts, and the league wants it to be that way because the league loves their quarterbacks.
I like the Colts too. The Colts, they needed a quarterback, and it's not Jacoby Brissett. Philip Rivers is a guy that has been he's achieved all his goals but a Super Bowl. He's going to a team that is stacked now. They added Buckner in the offseason, adds him a pass rusher. They have the pass rushing. They have the secondary now, and they have the wide receiving core. You have T.Y. Hilton. They have the experience and the Marlon Mack, who's one of the most underrated running backs in the league that nobody even talks about when they try to compare some of the best running backs in the league. You go look at their numbers, and the offensive line is the best offensive line or second best offensive line in all of football. This is a team that didn't make the playoffs really because of the quarterback position. I didn't trust Jacoby Brissett. I trust Philip Rivers. He can get this team over the hump. This is a guy that really needs to get over the hump in the playoffs. That's the only problem that Philip Rivers has had over the years. I like what this team has. And by the way, they added Trey Burton in the offseason too. A tight end who's experienced, a guy that was explosive with the Chicago Bears, and you're giving him so many weapons, not only in the wide receiver and the running back, like you were saying, Speedy, you're giving him tight ends, and their offensive line's going to give him enough time. That was the problem with the Chargers last year. They didn't give him enough time. Now you're giving Philip Rivers, the window thrower, an opportunity to throw the ball to all these different weapons on the field. It's absolutely the Indianapolis Colts.
Yeah, so like Speedy said, I don't think it'd be wise to pick a team in the NFC just based off how stacked that division is. So we're going to stay in the AFC as well. We're going to go to the Pittsburgh Steelers. And when you think about the Pittsburgh Steelers and their history in the playoffs, they've ran into two teams that they've really struggled with. Actually, three. And that's the Baltimore Ravens, the New England Patriots, and the Indianapolis Colts back in the Peyton Manning days. So obviously New England's falling off a little bit, so that was their biggest challenge. So really the biggest challenge in the AFC is Baltimore and Kansas City. But when you think about the Steelers, they had the third best defense in the NFL last year. And if you think about the two teams that went to the Super Bowl, the Patriots and the 49ers, those were the two best defenses in the NFL last year. And the Steelers were number 3. And I think when you think about when the Steelers did have success in this century, it's been through their defense. And Mike Tomlin was also the coach when they made 2 Super Bowl runs. And he won one, obviously, and he lost one against the Packers. But the Steelers' defense is dominant. And you have to remember, this was an 8-5 team last year that only had Ben Roethlisberger playing one full game. They were 8-5 at one point with 2 young quarterbacks that barely had any NFL experience, and they still had a great chance of making it to the playoffs. As a matter of fact, if it was last year, they would have been the 7th seed in the playoffs this year. And this is a team that's really young on the offensive side of the ball as well, but they have talent. They have the licensed Smith-Schuster. They have the licensed James Conner. They picked up Eric Ebron in the offseason on a nice deal for about $3 million, $6 million a year. So I think this team is really building something, and they're building the right pieces around Ben Roethlisberger that really mimic that championship caliber teams that they had in the early 2010s.
Yeah, and we all know that defense wins championships. And when you look at the Steelers and the Colts, it's actually 2 complete opposite teams, but also 2 teams very similar at the quarterback position. And when I say that they're opposite, I look at the Colts as a team that has probably 0% chance of winning less than 6 or 7 games. Their ceiling is very high, or their floor is very high, but their ceiling is not as high as the Steelers. I don't see Philip Rivers winning a Super Bowl, period. But then also for him to win a Super Bowl in the first year in a new system with pieces around him that probably aren't any better than he had in LA. Of course, he does have a better offensive line. But let's not act like 5 guys up front is going to be the difference maker. And Philip Rivers, instead of throwing that game-changing interception, now all of a sudden he's going to win 3 or 4 playoff games to win a Super Bowl. But when you look at the Steelers, they could be, a top 5 pick because we don't know what's going to happen with Big Ben. But if he comes back at the way that he was playing at his Hall of Fame rate, and you combine that with the defense that they have and the most versatile pair of weapons that they have, when you look at their offensive plan, they can change every single week because they have someone on their weapons that can do everything. If you need to get a deep ball, you have Chase Claypool that they just drafted, who can also be a red zone threat. When you want to throw some screens or some motions, you have Deontay Johnson that can make those shifty plays. When you want to get a quick screen pass, quick slant, and you need that third down conversion, you have Juju that can make that play.
And your time is up. Your 3 minutes is up.
Next one might be up, but I just want to prove that the Steelers are the team that can be AFC champion beside the Ravens and the Chiefs. And the Colts, I just don't see being able to make that run after not having that playoff experience.
Just so you guys know, the same offense that Frank Reich runs in Indianapolis, they ran practically the same offense 2 years ago with Philip Rivers. So I do believe Philip Rivers can flourish in this offense. They got so many weapons all over the field, and that offensive line is dominant. And if they give Philip Rivers enough time to throw the ball, he will dominate the line of scrimmage. And he hasn't won like Ben Roethlisberger. Ben Roethlisberger's coming off a major injury, shoulder injury. This is not a half-ass injury. This sent him out almost the whole season, almost 12 months. And when him coming back, this is an aging Ben Roethlisberger who's coming off a major injury. I think, how old is Ben? 37, 38?
I think he's 37 now.
He's 37, 38 with his shoulder, his throwing shoulder. I'm going to say Philip Rivers and the Indianapolis Colts, and they're in an easier division, a much easier division.
All right, next question from
He's letting them know he's healthy now.
All right, next question from us to you, from a new team in the playoffs to repeat. Which champion from 2019 is most likely to repeat when their season resumes? So the Raptors of the NBA, the Blues are in the NHL, the Nationals in MLB, or the Chiefs in the NFL?
Shit. All right, let's see. I don't think the Nationals will. And I've actually been on the record to say the Chiefs won't. So I guess I'm going to go Toronto. So here's my argument for Toronto. Honestly, for the record, I would say no one's repeating out of the 3. And I don't really know hockey that much, so I can't talk about that. But when it comes to the Raptors, one thing that benefits them during this whole season suspension is the fact that they have probably the most continuity among any team. And when you have a situation like this, the biggest thing that you're going to need is a coach that has proven that he can be able to handle adverse situations, which the Raptors have gone through, and Nick Nurse has proven he could do in his first season, and also a team that has that chemistry and continuity to be able to get right back to it after missing 3-4 months and just be right back into finding the open guy, making the right pass, making the right defensive switches, and being able to win basketball games. So when it comes to a team looking that like they could repeat, I don't think any of them, will. Obviously, I think the Chiefs will probably be favorites, but I don't see that happening for a number of reasons that I could elaborate on if we had more time. But the Raptors having that continuity play in a suspensional season in this situation, I think gives them a huge advantage that a lot of other teams in the NBA don't have. Not to mention their defense got even better without Kawhi Leonard. So they do have some things going for them.
Yeah, they got some things going for them. Like you said, defense is their main thing. But like you guys were talking about the Mavericks weren't the most talented team, but they had the continuity. They had those veterans. They know how to play together. They had the coach. They knew what they were doing. And I think Nick Nurse really has the team playing together. They play hard on the defensive end. They don't have a superstar to score the ball on the offensive side of the ball, but they still get the job done because of their defensive tenacity and their attention to detail on the offensive side of the ball. They obviously won a championship last year, and they seem hungry to be able to do it again. And the fact that this is in Canada, the fact that Canada is really behind them, Canada gives them that vibe, they give them the energy. I think that they will take that energy, they'll take their defensive tenacity, and they'll run with their coach and do the best they can to run through a wall and try to win another national championship.
All right.
Interesting.
All
Very
right.
interesting.
You want to go first again? Or?
You could go first.
All right, so we're going to go with the St. Louis Blues on this one.
I'll just add a little pepper on it.
Yeah, we're going to go with the St. Louis Blues on this one. And I think they actually are one of the, when you look at the hiatuses within the sports, they benefit the most for this reason. They're going to get their best player back in Vladimir Tarasenko. He was supposed to be out for the whole season. And now with the NHL playoffs being shifted to July, possibly August, he's now going to be able to come back. And when you look at him being their best player, I know he had a down regular season last year, but he had a phenomenal postseason, especially in the Western Conference Finals against the Sharks. And this team as a whole just really got better. They didn't really digress at all. They didn't have any kind of hangover. You bring in Justin Falk to help out your defense. You got Colton Parayko still has had a great year. Pietrangelo. All these guys are playing very well, and they have now something else to play for. I don't know, obviously, if you guys don't follow hockey, you might not know, but they had Jay Bouwmeester get knocked out for cardiac arrest in a game in February against the Ducks, and they're gonna want to play for him. They're going to do it for him. He's not going to be able to return this year. He's been one of their best defensemen for a very long time, not just recently. Really, even before they really were a good team, he was one of their best defensemen. And so they're going to have something to play for when it comes to that. You have another year of experience out of Jordan Binnington. You have a healthy Jaden Schwartz, that's been a problem for him year in and year out. Yeah, they have some playoff experience on this roster now, even going back to some other teams too. And when you look at the rest of the champions, the Nationals, again, they lost some players in the offseason. When you look at the Chiefs, I mean, they could definitely do it, but it still is going to be hard with, again, some of the players they lost on defense. Can Clyde Edwards-Helaire be a feature running back? There's a lot of questions. And again, Andy Reid, he won his Super Bowl finally, but can he do it again? Whereas, again, I think it'll be easier for a team like the Blues, who defense wins championships. They have the defense, and they have something to play for.
Well, you look at Chiefs and you look at football. How many teams have won back-to-back championships? Who was the last team to do it? The New England Patriots. That was a long time ago. Then you go to the Nationals in baseball. Who was the last team to win back-to-back championship? Was it the Giants?
No, Giants weren't back to back.
It was the Yankees. It was the Yankees in the 90s. And then you look at the Toronto Raptors, the last team to win back-to-back championships. Who was it?
Golden State.
The Golden State Warriors. Now, the Golden State Warriors with Toronto and with all those teams in basketball, you can compare and contrast all these teams. If you have the best team, you have the best player, you have the best chance of winning. But it really is the NHL. It's the St. Louis Blues. And really because of the round robin and coming back from 15, 16 games that they're going to go right to the playoffs. I'm hearing they're going to have 12 teams from each league, from the East and the Western Conference. And goaltending. Goaltending is the most important part of positioning in the NHL playoffs. And you saw what Jordan Binnington could do, dominating. Their defense is one of the best defenses in all of the NHL, one of the most underrated defenses in the NHL. And then you look at their centers, their four lines. They have probably the best overall in the top five four lines in the NHL. So you compare, you say Tarasenko, but there are guys like Pietrangelo and Vince Dunn and Marco Scudella and Ryan O'Reilly. These are all great players, and they're playoff players. And this is a team also, really, ever since Craig Berube took over, have been one of the best teams in the NHL. Go look at what their record was when he took over in the second half, early in the first half of the season, go after the All-Star break, and really completely dominated all the way through the second half of the season, going all the way to the playoffs, going all the way to Boston and knocking them off. And now you're seeing them this year. What was their record this year before the season?
94 points.
Yeah, they had 94 points. They were one of the best teams in the Western Conference.